Stay tuned and let's finally build this Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Cosmo Build-A-Figure. Pow and welcome back to the channel, Dan Who Reviews. As always, my name is Dan W. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at It's Dan Who, and remember now you can hit that join button and become a channel member as well. Either show some love or join the members club. Much appreciated. Today we are finally completing the last piece to this Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 wave, aka the Cosmo Build-A-Figure, and on the table you will see all of the pieces that you will need to build Cosmo. So to do that you will need to buy 6 of the 7 figures in this wave. That is what he looks like when he is complete. Hopefully mine looks exactly like that. To build him you will need to buy Drax, Mantis, Nebula, Rocket, Adam Warlock and Kraglin. You do not need Star-Lord, he has no Build-A-Figure piece. So this should be quite very straightforward. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So obviously the body's one piece, the head's already attached, and then you put his helmet on, and then you just attach his legs. Simple as that. So I'm going to do that off screen. I'm going to warm up the joints first, but again, it's very self-explanatory, all right? You just attach his legs. There you go. That is Cosmo complete, and he's much bigger than I expected in person. Let me get the tape measure out so you can see what we've got going on here. So as you can see, he is about maybe 4.5, maybe nearly 5 inches in length, if you like extend the tail a little bit. And then height, yeah, about 4 inches again. So he's bigger than you assume he's going to be. I keep saying he, but we have heard her speak now with that sort of modulator, and it's a female voice. So I'm assuming Cosmo is a female dog, but I don't know for sure. The first time we seen Cosmo was actually in the very first Guardians movie, in one of the collector's little sort of chambers, if you will. And then I think we've seen again in Volume 2. So she has always been in the franchise, but now since the Guardians have taken over Knowhere, it seems that she is a part of the team. So curious to see what role she plays. I'm sure she's just a companion for this ship, or she's at Knowhere. But even still, Cosmo the dog is a feature from the comics, and I think a few people wanted this Build-A-Figure just to be a Cosmo dog in your comic display. Now, there's no reason why it can't work. It's just a dog at the end of the day. But yeah, the scale's bigger than what I expected. Now, let's zoom in and check out these details. So, starting at the head sculpt, what can I say? It's a pretty solid head sculpt of a dog. I really like the sculpt here with all the fur. I like the eyes. I like the snout. And it looks like there's some shading on there because of the way the shadows hit the sculpt. I also like the little, it looks like she's smiling, doesn't it, if you lift her up a little bit. The head is also on a ball joint, so you get motion up and down. As I said, there you go, up and down. And then also I like the way that you can just sort of tilt the head a little bit, so it shows you the dog's listening intently as they do. So I like that. You have to pop the head off to actually attach the dome on, and then the dome itself has this other piece that clips on like so, and then it sort of just sits on there. I thought the helmet was actually a fuller dome that covered the whole head, but it doesn't. It leaves enough room for the snout to stick out a little bit. You can cover it, but again, it would have been nice to have a full dome, but not a big issue. There's also a range of articulation here on the neck. See how this neck piece here, that has a swivel too. So not only can you swivel that, you've also got the ball joint there as well. So lots of range up there. And if I zoom out just to look at this oversized space outfit, some nice colours on there, a little bit baggy on the legs as you would expect. The tail, again, no wash, but nicely sort of shadows hitting the sculpt. That has a hinge up and down. And then the back legs don't have as much articulation as the front legs. You've just got that one sort of hinge there as a sort of a low knee, if you will. And then you've got the paw pivot that I'm coining it. So instead of ankle pivot, you've got paw pivot. So that actually has a hinge and a swivel. And then the legs, because they're on a ball joint, you can actually like stick the legs out wide like so, or squeeze them back in like that. So more range than you would expect. Same on the front, you can stick them out, stick them in, and then 2 points of articulation there, and then sort of knee joints, if you will, even though they're not knees, you know what I mean. And then again, paw pivot. There's not a lot of range on this bottom one, but it's there for aesthetics, I'm sure. But yeah, overall, let me zoom out. Overall, very solid looking Cosmo the dog, which I'm sure will look great with the team. Let's find out. So before bringing the Guardians, I thought I'd have a look around on my shelf for any more MCU style pets. And the only one I could find was Captain Marvel's cat, Goose. So here we have cats and dogs from the MCU. And as you can see, Cosmo is massive in comparison there to this Flurklin? I forgot what they're called, but it's a weird alien species, isn't it? But there you go. She can sit on top of Cosmo, and cats and dogs can get along. And I forgot to say that there's a ball joint here in the waist for Cosmo as well. So lots of movement there. So you can get a tilt side to side. So again, lots of range for this figure, definitely more than this clump of plastic. Bringing in a couple of MCU Rockets just to show you that Cosmo will stand basically the same height as Rocket. That shows you how big she is for this shelf. Now I still think that she should have come in a little 2-pack packed in with Rocket from this very wave. That would have made a lot more sense than the Build-A-Figure. I would have preferred to see someone like the High Evolutionary as the Build-A-Figure compared to Cosmo. I'm still happy we've got Cosmo, but look at that. That in a pack, I think people would have made people a lot happier. And here we have Cosmo with the rest of the Guardians team from this wave, including the deluxe Groot there in the background, as I'm assuming this is the Guardians team. Of course, we're still missing Gamora from Volume 3, so until she arrives, if she arrives, here we have Gamora from Volume 2 there at the back. She's holding that big gun, which is too big to be fair, but there you go. Let's put Gamora there. And then, of course, Kraglin was also in the team now as well. So there's Kraglin from this wave, who, again, I think is too tall. Look at that. He's just as big as Dave Bautista over there. So, yeah, zooming out a little bit. That's our sort of Guardians team. They're the good guys in their current form. We just need an official Volume 3 version of Gamora, please. And because I didn't include him in that last setup, here we have the MCU Adam Warlock compared to Cosmo. And as I said, the first time we seen Cosmo in the MCU was in the collector's vault in his collection. So here we have the MCU collector with Cosmo. And do you know who else he had in a little vault there? This guy, Howard the Duck. Now, of course, we don't have an official MCU version of Howard the Duck, but I guess you could create yourself a little collector's collection, maybe. To answer the question, does this Cosmo Build-A-Figure work as a comic stand-in, as a comic representation of Cosmo in your collection? Now that is ultimately up to you. That is personal preference. It's your collection display however you wish. But here we have a comic version of Star-Lord and Adam Warlock to see how she compares. And the scales works absolutely fine. And the dog does have a sense of realism to it. But again, there's no reason why it couldn't work in a comic display. So it's completely up to you. I think it could be fudged in, yeah. Here we have a Cosmo compared to some of the Who crew with Frogman, Tigra and White Rabbit, and it seems like they're getting along fine. Cosmo could be a little companion to the Who crew, but he's technically an MCU figure, so I don't like mixing. And last and definitely not least, here we have Captain Britain and Hal, Fire, Hank. And no, Captain Britain is not going to hit a dog with Excalibur. So, final thoughts on this Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Cosmo Build-A-Figure. Now, I am happy to add Cosmo to the collection. She has been part of the franchise since that very first Easter egg in Volume 1. We heard her voice for the first time in the Christmas special, and I'm sure she'll be a fun companion to the team in the new movie now she has found her voice. This figure gives people the opportunity to add maybe a comic version of Cosmo to their shelf, as the dog aesthetic sort of works on both sides of the fence, but that is personal preference as always. Lots of articulation there as well for some fun posing opportunities, but overall, I just think it's a great figure. Did it need to be a Build-A-Figure? Probably not. That's just me, but I'm still happy to have it all the same. I just think the scale's a little bit too big, but my experience with dogs is different. My dog's a Shih Tzu and he's tiny. So in comparison to Teddy, this Labrador, I assume, is massive. So maybe I'll have to get Teddy a little spacesuit. Who knows? But you let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Cosmo? Are you happy to have it? Do you want it as a comic version? Would you prefer to get a comic version over the MCU version, or does it not matter to you? Always curious to hear your thoughts, but as always, go and check out all my reviews of every single figure in this wave on the channel right now. And if you like Marvel Legends, and well, you're in the right place. Check out the videos tab, find the playlist, but most importantly, please hit that subscribe button, hit all on the notification bell, don't miss out on a video, and please hit that join button, become a channel member, either show some love or join the members club. Much appreciated. Until then, you can find me on Instagram at It's Dan Who. And don't be shy, tweet me at Dan Who Reviews. And until then, people, my name is Dan W. And of course, see you on the next one.